How's everybody doing today? Welcome to another edition of the Lead Pedal Podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Owens. Today we're going to be talking about how to get ahead as a driver. And this is our first of 3 parts that we're doing this week. We're talking all about you, the driver. And you know what? It's going to have a good one. So today we're going to talk about how you get ahead as a driver, some of the things to think about, who actually gets ahead in the company. Our second part is about creating a personal brand. You have one, you just don't know it yet. So we're going to be talking about having a personal brand and what that means as a truck driver. Also going to be talking in our third part about being an entrepreneur. If you've not heard of this before, this is the way a lot of the successful drivers are running. And if you don't know how to operate that way, then you are missing out, my friends. I am telling you, that is the way that people are successful in this business. Before we get to that, though, and before we start off on part 1, let's talk about a little bit about Bison Transport. That's right. They are our sponsors for today, and they are looking for owner-operators and truck drivers across their fleet. They were offering sign-on bonuses until the end of March. I think they've extended that, but I don't know for sure. So the best way to do, contact them through bisondriving.com. They're looking for owner-operators. They're looking for truck drivers. They're looking for teams. If you're one of those, then they've got great opportunities for you. And of course, they won Safest Fleet again this year, 17 years in a row. That's got to tell you something right there. All right, let's get into our start for today and talk about why you want to be a driver and how you can be an advantage to your fleet. Let's get on with it. Here we go.
Be sure to share the podcast on your favorite social media channels.
All right, so we are going to talk about how come some drivers seem to get ahead and others seem to have problems. And we see this throughout the industry. Even we see this within a fleet. A lot of people don't understand why some are getting ahead, why aren't. It's not just about miles. It's about some of the things that they're doing. We've had people on this show before that have talked about the important thing is that they're willing to try things. They're willing to work with the company. They're working well as a team. Those are the big things that we see. And, you know, a lot of it is how you get going in today's trucking industry. It's not about luck. The successful drivers are doing things extremely well. They're communicating well. They're consistent. They have accountability. They have a good attitude. These are the things that are going to really get you going. And, you know, it doesn't matter where you've come from in the industry or even how long you've been in the industry. You can be successful in today's world of being part of that. So whether you're seasoned pro or just getting started, that's how this is going to go. So let's talk about, first of all, realizing where you are. Drivers that get ahead are not always the most experienced, okay? They're not always the fastest. In fact, speed is not going to help you get ahead for sure, but they're consistent. They're professional, and they're easy to work with. And this is what we're seeing consistently across the board of what the successful drivers are doing. And you've heard this before. If you've been listening to this podcast for any part-time, you know that I am really about it's easy to be successful in trucking as far as being a good driver, because all you have to do is be on time, be accountable, be professional in the way you're presented, and communicate with people, and you are going to have a successful career. Of course, you heard about our episodes we did last time where we were talking about pre-trip inspections, we're talking about out-of-service criteria, all that kind of stuff. That all goes into it as well. That's what makes a professional driver. And it's funny how many drivers don't really seem to understand who their customers are. They think that, okay, you know, my customer is whoever I deliver to. Well, I can tell you, my friends, your real customer is your carrier. Okay, if you don't work with your carrier, if you don't understand what you're doing or how you're doing it, then that is the first part to being unsuccessful. And I'll share a story with you. We had a guy that started at one of our he started with one of the carriers I was at. We were a small carrier. We only had 50 trucks. We were, most of us were highway. I think there was 1 or 2 city guys. Everybody else was highway. You leave on a Sunday. We ran all over North America. And a guy started on a Sunday, and he was a brand new guy, so nobody knew him. All of our trucks were the same color, and nobody knew who he was. And we had a thing. Part of our operation or process was that we were to call in. This is back before cell phones, my friends, and back before ELDs, and back before when you had to find a phone booth in New Jersey at 4 PM. That's when this was. But we had to find. We had a phone card. That's how we phoned in. But we had to phone in in the mornings between 7 and 9 a.m. You had to phone in the evenings between 4 and 6 p.m. and phone whenever you were, reloading or trying to get load details or any of that kind of stuff. So normally, if someone's running long haul like a California, the company should hear from them a couple times a day. For the rest of us that are running kind of short and picking up and delivering, you might hear from us 3 or 4 times a day. So that's kind of the norm. Everybody knew their route. Nobody expected. In fact, if nothing was going on, they would say just call tomorrow. They didn't expect you to call twice a day if there was nothing, but usually in the evening was to get your dispatch. In the morning it was to let them know you're unloaded, and then midday is to pick up and get a new trip number or whatever it might be. And that's exactly how it worked. And then what happened is, so this guy starts. I don't know if he didn't know the process or didn't understand it or it wasn't explained to him. It was pretty clear to all of us that he had to call in. So he's going towards New Jersey, which normally is a 10-hour ride, 8 to 10-hour ride, depending on how you go down. And he went down. He should have been unloading Monday morning. Okay, we all left Sunday afternoon for Monday morning delivery. That's back in the day. Now, he didn't call in, okay? So we call in, and there's probably about 6 of us that are running that New Jersey lane on that week. And you'd have about 6 of us, and we'd be flip-flopping back and forth. And, pretty well our schedule was you deliver in New Jersey on the Monday morning, back to Toronto on Tuesday, back to New Jersey Wednesday, back to Toronto Thursday, back to New Jersey Friday, home Saturday. You were off until Monday, and then you started the process again. So 3 trips one week, 2 trips the other. That's kind of the normal. And so anyway, we're going back and forth, and we're calling in, we're getting trip numbers, we're calling in twice a day like we're supposed to. And no one's seen this guy. He doesn't call in Monday. He doesn't call in Tuesday. Doesn't call in Wednesday or Thursday. Finally, I think he called in Friday morning. He was supposed to deliver this load on Monday. He called in Friday morning. And of course, that was the last Friday that he called in on our fleet. Now, what happened to this guy? Nothing really good other than he did not communicate. We all kind of had our own famous fuel stops on the island. He elected to go to a fuel stop actually at the same exit, but on the other side of the highway where nobody went. We never used that fuel stop. It was not one of our regulars, so nobody thought to go and think to look there. And apparently this is where he sat because it rained all week for the whole week. And apparently he was afraid to drive in the rain. Not sure what he's doing on a Canadian fleet in the summer or in the wintertime, but that's the story. So anyway, he was fired. So really your first customer is your carrier. If you're not doing a good job for your carrier, you're not going to make it the rest of the way. Okay. Your second would be dispatch. If you think of how this works. Dispatch is a team effort, okay? You may think that it's us against them, and in the old days, it seemed that way. And some dispatchers have been known to play games, but I've had a lot of great dispatchers who actually would be the first to support you and back you up, and that's the kind of thing that you want. So working with your dispatch is going to not only help you get, they're trying to make sure that all the trucks are moving and all the freight is moving the way it's supposed to be. So if you're working with your dispatch and you're helping them out when they need a hand and they're trying to help you out if you need time off, whatever it might be, then that is your second. So those two are internal. Those two are not outside customers or receivers. Those are your 2 internal people. Carrier first, dispatch second. Then you got your shippers, and those are your main contracts going out. You got to do a good job for them, of course, because they're under contract, and of course you could lose a lot of. You can't, it's more than just one load. If something goes wrong, you could lose the whole contract. So your shippers would be your third one. And then your receivers that you're going to, because again, your brand is all there, but it's, most people think of it the other way. If I say, who's your customer? A lot of them think it's who we're delivering to. And that is actually the last part. You still got to do a good job for them, but really you want to make sure you're doing a good job for your carrier, because as you heard in the story I just told you, that guy didn't even make it to the receiver. So he was done. So again, knowing who your people are that you need to worry about is really. Now, if you're wondering why, and this is again, a lot of people think, okay, so they're calling certain drivers first, or certain drivers seem to get better trucks, or certain drivers seem to get better loads, whatever it might be. If you're wondering why that happens, it's not so much favoritism. It might look like favoritism because the same people are getting it all the time, but I can tell you from a dispatch standpoint, and I used to be a dispatcher, from a dispatch standpoint, you're going to pick people who can A, get the job done, and B, are easy to work with. If you've got a lot of drama going on and all of that kind of stuff, it is not going to help you at all. And so they're working with people that they can trust. And if you're ever been in business or know the business community, the first three things are work with people who you like, know, and trust. So if they like you, that's a good point. If they know that you can get the job done and you're going to be, somebody that they could work with, then there you go. You got that again. And then if you are trustworthy and they can trust that you're going to get the job done, then you're sold. And so a lot of us, when we're drivers, we usually think that dispatch is against us. Like, hey, they don't want us to have a day off, or how come they keep calling me? Why don't they call Joe? A lot of drivers think like that, when really you should flip that. The reason that they're calling you is because they trust you. And if you're the type of person that's trustworthy, you're going to go a long way in not only in the organization, but in the industry. So you really want to think that. So are you someone who's trustworthy? Are you somebody who's predictable, that they can go, okay, I can count on that person to be there? I always had a line that I would tell our company. I'd say, you know what? If you don't hear from me, everything is going good. I will be the first to call you if there's a problem I can't handle. So are you that kind of a person? Is there drama? If there's drama every single time, I remember it even messed up on me one time. I mean, everybody gets tired, right? This is a funny story. Everybody gets tired. And one time I remember coming in from New York City, and New York City can just be a dog just to begin with. You come back and you're just tired. It's exhausting from the moment that you hit the state line all the way through and all the way back. It's just traffic and cars and all kinds of stuff to deal with. And I came back and I was exhausted. I was going back out for another run because that was my Jersey week. And over the radio, it said, they used to call me bro. I'll leave that to you as to why, but they used to say, hey bro, you're going back down to the city. And this is in the CB. I'm just pulling into the yard and I went, oh man, like that was my job. That's where I was going to go anyway. But just at that moment, it just ticked me off. Well, did I not get reamed out by the boss when he came in? Because it was the boss that was in another truck shunting in the yard that told me that. So, be very careful about how you do not want to be the drama person. And you want to have a good proven track record. So if you're consistently on time, if you consistently have things going, you are going to be extremely well versed at what you are doing. So make sure that you're working into that. And the daily habits are the best way to do that. And when we come back, I'm going to share with you some of the things that you can do to build that reputation and be successful as a driver in 2026. Before we get to that, though, let me tell you a little bit about Harnois. Do you know about this new truck stop that's opening up in Woodstock, Ontario? That's right. Harnois Énergies is opening a new truck stop in Woodstock, Ontario, exit 230 on the 401. This thing is going to be amazing, man. They're going to have fuel, propane, they've got maintenance shop, restaurant, convenience stores, they've got a cat scale there, they've got all kinds of stuff on there, and it's going to be a really good spot. It has been a truck stop before by another chain. Harnois Énergies is out of Quebec. They've been around since 1958, and they are now expanding into Ontario. And I have talked to some people who have already been there, some friends of mine that are in the industry that live in Woodstock, and they've been there and they said this place is going to be out of sight, so you want to make sure that you get there. So first of all, it's an SO Fuel Card stop, so make sure you go get your SO Fuel Card at harnoisenergies.com, and then you'll be all set to go. And I look forward to seeing you at the truck stop when they open. They should be open very soon. We're doing this, it's mid-April. I think they're expecting to open in May sometime, if not already. All right, so go check them out. You can go to harnoisenergies.com to keep up on all the updates, and we'll see you at the truck stop for sure. All right, let's get on with our show. Here we go.
By far my favorite station.
You're the best. Oh, yeah.
I love you guys.
All right, so we've been talking about how to get ahead as a driver, how to be one of those successful drivers in today's trucking industry, and we're talking about who your first customer was. We're talking about why some drivers are getting called more than others, and now we are going to talk about what you can do to make sure that you are successful as a driver. And it is really not that hard, my friends. And in today's world where we seem to be going the other way in the industry, you'll stand out even more just by doing this. So the good drivers have already figured this out. So if you're a young driver, I would suggest you go talk to an experienced driver on your fleet that's doing things well and see if they can get you going. All right, so how do you get ahead? First of all, time. Time management in trucking is probably the biggest thing. All loads are timed. Really knowing exactly, showing up on time. Some freight, some carriers, some customers have specific time requirements. We are in a world of just-in-time freight. This started back in, I guess, probably the 90s is when it kind of really got going, to where people stopped warehousing, especially in the auto sector. People stopped warehousing their stuff, and they are expecting you to show it up. So when you don't show up, you are actually shutting down a line or holding up production somehow. This changed in the 90s because storing freight was becoming such a big thing. They put it on our backs, and then they lower the prices. I know. That's a whole different discussion. But that is what's happened now. So now we are in a world where it's just-in-time freight, where they are expecting things to, especially if you're in things like produce, auto. I'm not sure about steel so much, but there's a lot of things that are affecting the final product. If you're hauling produce, you've got a certain amount of time. We talked with OJ Sidor about this. You got a certain amount of time from the time you pick it up in California to the time that you get to the stores here in Toronto. So understanding that and knowing what's going on is really an important thing. So figuring that out, planning your trips properly. This is still an issue. We've got ELDs, we've got, we've got GPS, we've got all these things, and people have stopped planning. And I'm not saying you have to go back to reading a map, but that's not a bad idea. At least understand it. But are you planning it? Do you understand exactly how the GPS is great to kind of get an idea of where you've got to go, how long it's going to take. But you have to do some additional, as a professional driver, you have to do some additional planning in there to make sure that you are getting all the things the way that it should be. So are you planning your trips? Have you taken into account all the delays that you might have? That's how you make money in trucking, my friend, minimizing the delays. That's how it works right there. And then keeping your word. If you say you're going to be there, other than, accident, something like that, or something out of your control, you should be there. If you should be able to plan from here in Toronto to Houston, Texas. You know it's going to take 30 hours. You should know how long you need to take to do that. And it is not 30 hours is not the answer to that question. But there's a lot of people who don't think about that, or they're just giving enough time. They're not giving time for delays at the borders, for inspections, for all those kind of things that come along as you're going down the road. So make sure you understand that and know exactly how much time it takes is going to really be there. So keeping your word, when you say you're going to be there Monday morning in Houston, Texas, you need to be there Monday morning in Houston, Texas. And if you're not going to be there for whatever reason, you need to communicate that. That is the other thing. Communication is the big thing. So, a lot of dispatchers, a lot of companies, carriers, they all understand that things can happen on the road that are out of your control. You're not in control of all society. So if something happens like that, communication is the big thing, because then it goes down the road and it makes you look good. Everybody understands that things can happen in communication. But if you're not keeping your word and you're not communicating, you're actually hurting not only yourself, but your company's reputation as well, and possibly future contracts or freight down the road. Taking care of your equipment. This is something that we've talked about all last week. We're seeing more and more out of service violations going out. I think there was about 40 to 45% of trucks that were inspected recently were put out of service. That is an alarming rate, especially for the trucking community that is supposed to be trained on this and professional and all of that kind of stuff. Now, taking away the basics of doing your pre-trip inspection and making sure your truck is rolling well, taking care of your equipment, and actually going above that, whether it be, I'm a polish junkie, so, I like to polish, but maybe you don't like to polish. I'm not saying you have to do that, but keeping your truck clean, keeping it well maintained, keeping it up to snuff is something that you should really be active on, and it's going to make you look very sharp from a company perspective, because a lot of companies on the weekends, when your truck is parked, are going in and looking around and finding out what could happen and what your truck is like. So communicate. Clear, simple updates. Whenever you're supposed to call in, just call in, say, yeah, everything's good, whatever it is. Don't have any surprises, and have a problem-solving mindset. If something does come up, Are you just phoning in and go, okay, you guys need to take care of this? Or are you saying, here's the issue, here's how I see it happening, or here's what I think I could do? And being a team player that way, that is going to make you a big professional driver for a long, long time. And handling problems. Are you handling problems like a pro? This is one of the things that you really have to think about is there's delays, there's breakdowns, there's loads that are not well liked. How you handle those can really be a problem one way or the other. So you need to really think about those and think about what you're getting into. Remaining cool, it can be very difficult. So knowing how that works is going to be really a big thing. And then your attitude is the biggest thing, right? What is your attitude on the job? What is, are you positive? Are you a negative person? Are you a complainer? Are you a solution finder? What are you? This is, I've had so many companies tell me that they will hire for attitude before they even hire for skill. So if you have a good attitude and you're willing to learn and you're willing to listen, they're going to take you first. If you got a good professional image, they're going to take you first, even if someone else is a better driver, because with a good attitude, you've got the basics and then they can make it work for you. If you are always kind of the other way, they can't work with that no matter how good your skills are. So those are the couple of things. Go and try those. Remember that it doesn't take much to be a cool driver or professional driver in today's world. You just need to have a good attitude. You need to communicate. You need to be on time. Take care of your equipment and trip plan and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And folks, that is it. Those are 5 things that you can do tomorrow to make yourself a better driver. And I know that you're going to like that. Now, if you're a company, I want to share something before we go. Compliance Mentors, they're one of our sponsors on today's show, and they have a lot to do with safety. They help companies get compliant. If you are wondering where you are in 2026 and where your safety record is and what you need to work on, that is one of the things that carriers can do. And having an audit done, a compliance audit, can be the first thing in helping you be successful. So you want to make sure you check them out. Compliance Mentors with a Z.com is where you can go. And they've got offices clear across the country to help you, very versed in the trucking industry. They help with training, compliance audits, safety, and more. Check them out at compliancementors.com with a Z, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope that helps. Join us for part 2, where we talk about personal brand in the next episode, and we will catch you later.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com, and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.